Okay, so it looks like Governor Tim Walz has gotten a pretty massive endorsement. This is coming from none other than Bernie Saunders himself. So Bernie Sanders, title says Bernie Sanders backs Walz and Harris veepstakes. He will, quote, speak up for working people. Senator Bernie Sanders put his support behind Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as Vice President Harris's potential running mate, saying he will be the one to, quote, speak up for the working class. Quote, I had the opportunity to talk to your governor a few days ago, and I am very impressed by him, Sanders said Saturday in an interview with Minnesota Public Radio. I think you have an excellent governor who understands the needs of working families. So I hope very much that the vice president elects a running mate who will speak up and take on powerful corporate interests, he continued. And I think Tim Walz is somebody who could do that. Sanders is in Minnesota for, quote, Get Out the Vote efforts supporting Representative Ilhan Omar. He hosted a town hall in Mankato, Minnesota, focused on working class voters. And so I don't even know if Bernie has actually formally endorsed Kamala Harris yet. He definitely wants her to win, is trying to stop Trump, but I did a video also reporting on how he's actually trying to withhold his vote in order to garner some promises, which I think is a smart strategy, I think. And it says in his interview Saturday, Sanders says he will do everything I can to help Harris beat former President Trump in November. That, he said, is also part of the reason he's visiting the North Star State. And so what's going on with Walz now is he's actually officially on the list for sure. So this article here, it says Governor Tim Walz now traveling to Washington, D.C. to interview with Vice President Kamala Harris on Sunday. So that should be today when you're seeing this video, but when we're recording this, it's yesterday. So it says Governor Tim Walz will no longer be traveling to New Hampshire to campaign for Harris, according to a spokesperson for the governor. Instead, he will be in Washington, D.C. to interview with presumptive nominee Kamala Harris. The change to Walz's schedule came late Saturday afternoon. And so this also is coming off the backs of, recall that Nancy Pelosi was actually reportedly leaning in his favor, which is huge. She was the one who also kicked Biden out, so it's a really big deal for Walz. Walz is really gaining some momentum. In this Biden article, although it said that Josh Shapiro is clearly his favorite, they also mentioned Tim Walz in this article, saying that he was a blast. In fact, there's like this one article about Shapiro in here, and then afterwards is 3 of these on Walz. So he actually is the candidate with the most, and he gets a lot of positive coverage here. And then there's kind of a paragraph for Mark Kelly where it's basically like, he doesn't really know the guy. And so with all of this, there's a lot of copium going on, or not copium, hopium, I should say hopium. And so here we have the Poly Market website, which is like gives us the betting market. So Shapiro, you can see, is at 64%. Actually, when I recorded the previous video, Walz is at 22%. It's actually at 21%. This seems to be a bit volatile. So if we look at what he was at on August 2nd, 5 a.m., he was at 4% chance. He's now jumped all the way to 23%. I was actually down on Walz for a bit in terms of his probability because he wasn't really in the news media much. But now the coverage is going up. The betting markets are responding. He has support from Pelosi, it appears, at least some kind of support. Bernie Saunders is throwing his support behind him. It appears like McGovern supports him, who's a top Democrat on the Rules Committee. Obviously Pramila Jayapal from Congressional Progressive Caucus. There's a lot of weight going on. Obviously, the Weird attack is huge. He got big by himself. Harris is using that. There's a vetting process that's currently going on right now. There's this vetting process that's currently occurring, and so we'll have to see how that ends up going. I think if it's a legit situation, I think Shapiro won't be chosen on the grounds of too many scandals, but we'll have to see how that goes. But that's right, Bernie Saunders pulling through, again, kind of showing how Tim Walz is clearly the progressive pick. And I think he's pretty selfless for doing this, actually, because he might feel like, hey, I'm just going to be a senator. I should have been the one that's president. He's now going to be the vice president and next in line for the presidency. But I think Bernie is that kind of guy. He's that kind of selfless dude. So shout out to Bernie Saunders, and we got some real movement coming in for Walz, and just inject that hopium into the veins, man, because it is really, really coming.